we are, of course, Conservative Party headquarters in Calgary. We're also looking at the NDP and the Liberal headquarters. But it is the Conservatives, with a majority, who are celebrating tonight. Jacques Bourbeau is there in Calgary. Jacques, this is what Stephen Harper campaigned for. He made a calculation right from the start, and he got what he wanted.
Well, I can tell you, Donna, that our decision desk has made a lot of Conservatives here in Calgary very, very happy. Our announcement of a Conservative majority has really electrified this crowd. And certainly one of the things I think is going to be interesting is that all through this campaign, Stephen Harper kept asking for a majority, but he never really explained what he wants to do with that, what he could do with a majority government that he hasn't been able to do with a minority government for the past 5 years. And frankly, Donna, it now looks like we're going to find out.
Well, not bad for an election that he didn't want, huh?
Not bad. You know, Donna, I was in that very room that Jacques is in 2006, and I can tell you, even though the Conservatives won the election in 2006, it did not feel like a victory. Tonight is what they were waiting for in 2006, and they got it, albeit 5 years later.
The message was very clearly, Donna, the Prime Minister said right from the get-go that he wanted to see a stable government. I think that's what the country needs right now, and that's what Canadians have at least partially voted for. They voted for change on the one part, on the second place, but as far as their government goes, they wanted obviously a stable government.
And Eric, let's bring in Eric Sorensen, who's brought us, come back to his virtual set. Our guru is here at the desk now.
I'm only here virtually.
You look real to me. Eric, what I wanted to ask about is the NDP and the Liberals essentially switched positions tonight, right? Which meant the Tories picked up seats, enough to get a majority, but they got what they wanted. The NDP certainly surged ahead, but the vote just switched, didn't it, between the NDP and the Liberals?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, the vote splits in Ontario is what probably hurt the Liberals most. The NDP has, won lots of seats in Quebec. They have delivered some seats probably to the Conservatives in Ontario, and there may be even more seats for the Conservatives to pick up the rest of the way. But it leaves a very funny situation where you have the two parties that were on either side of the issue of national unity, the Liberals decimated and the Bloc Québécois decimated. And I'd be interested in Jay Hill and Sheila Copps talking a little about where this leaves the national unity question, because the Conservatives are going to have a majority, but it's not a Mulroney majority. It's not a majority with nationalists in part of that Quebec caucus. And Sheila Copps, I don't know what you think as well about where this leaves that debate, because yes, the Bloc is going away for the moment, but that, as Dennis Trudeau was saying, that's not the end of the separatist notion in Quebec. And where does that leave things if the Conservatives have this type of majority?
I think it's actually going to put Jack Layton in a very challenging position, because as anybody who's been on the front end of any of those constitutional debates will know, sometimes what people want in Quebec, they don't want in other parts of the country, and it's very difficult to square that circle. When you don't have members, it's okay because you can take the position, but when you have members across the country, you sometimes have to be more balanced in your approach, and that could represent a potential danger, because the Bloc cousin, Pauline Marois and company, are going to be looking for any excuse they can to sort of torch Canada.
Let's just check in at Conservative Party headquarters, Stephen Harper's headquarters in Calgary. Peter Harris is down in the crowd there. Huge celebrations, Peter.
Well, Donna, as it was lurching towards majority territory, this crowd was going back and forth saying, one more. So as each seat was piling on towards that majority marker that we announced, they were looking for it. Now, this group especially was raucous. They were extremely loud. I think this is something that Stephen Harper was talking about all through the campaign. He's worked for years for this. And here's one supporter that was particularly loud in the crowd. So now I'm putting you on the spot. What do you think now that it's actually happened?
I am so thankful that Canada's going to have a strong government. I was a little worried, and now my heart is at rest, and I can start partying.
What were you worried about?
I was worried about another minority government, and to be frank with you, an NDP opposition on that. It wouldn't have worked out well for Canada. It wouldn't have worked out well internationally, and it's so good to see that the left vote is split, and the Conservatives are in.
They went right up the center, but I mean, you have the NDP now. Jack Layton will be staring down Stephen Harper in the House of Commons. I mean, does that change the dynamic a bit?
Oh, of course it's going to change the dynamic. You have an NDP opposition. Who would have ever thought that could have happened? However, you're going to have an NDP opposition.
I knew she was going to scream, Donna. She's been screaming for the last 10 minutes. So there you go. Back to you.
All right, Peter Harris at the Stephen Harper's headquarters in Calgary. Much different mood over at the Liberal headquarters in Toronto. That's where Shirley Engel is. Shirley.
Well, Donna, there's hardly anyone in this room, just small pockets of people shaking their head in disbelief, mouthing the words, "Oh my God." This is a night of unprecedented defeat for the Liberals in many ways. Number one, the Conservative majority. They were trying to prevent even a Conservative minority. Number two, for the first time in history, losing official opposition status to the NDP, and in a brutal way that we still don't know if it's even worse than 1984. We still obviously haven't seen all the seats. And now we hear that Michael Ignatieff's seat here, the seat of the leader of the party, might not even be safe. We don't know. There are Liberals in the Greater Toronto area, the last Liberal stronghold, people like Mark Holland, Ken Dryden, Martha Hall Finley, Dan McTague. These are Liberals who are stars in the party. They make up the core of the party, and we still don't know if they're elected. So what you're seeing tonight is the defeat of this party, and some are even saying behind the scenes that this could be just what the Liberal Party needs, that they need to they're going to go down, they need to go down all the way, they need to really do some soul searching. The post-mortem in many ways has already begun. A lot of people wondering what went wrong. Perhaps Canadians really did feel this was an unnecessary election, and they seem to have overwhelmingly rejected what Mr. Ignatieff is selling. So a lot of teary eyes here tonight, Donna.
Yeah, and I just want to bring in Eric Sorensen. Michael Ignatieff himself looks like he's losing his seat.
He does, and one of the things we'll be watching for in some of these ridings is was it an outright win for the Conservatives, or did they stand still with their votes while the NDP took votes away from the Liberals? If that happened in that riding, another Liberal, in this case the leader of the Liberal Party, going down, and of course there will be leadership questions, which there would have been after this result anyway.
And there is one party tonight who can't believe their good fortunes. That is the NDP. That's where Mike Drolet is at NDP headquarters in Toronto tonight. Mike?
Yes, this is a stunned group of NDP supporters here today. Certainly, they never expected to get over 100 seats. I don't know what's more shocking, the NDP result, the Liberal result, or the Bloc result. I lived in Quebec for a couple of years, and I'm absolutely stunned by that. Now, the one thing that you guys were talking about on the panel was that Carl Boulanger did a lot of work to try to build up the NDP and to set the policy in Quebec to try to woo Quebec voters. Well, you could argue now that he has an even bigger job ahead of him, because they have a lot of Green MPs. A lot of people who, I believe the number was 61 in Quebec in terms of the NDP seats. Well, you could argue that 60 of those didn't expect to win, because the one seat that they expected to hold was Thomas Mulcair, and the rest was, sacrificial lambs for the large part. But they kept on going back to Quebec, and he was really forcing the issue there. So they're excited as anybody could possibly imagine they could be. Donna?
All right, just a quick thanks, Mike Drolet. Just a quick word from you, Eric, on the fortunes of the NDP. Absolutely historic night for them.
It is an historic night for them. There are a lot of voters who may be asking themselves this question, though, which is, for progressives, is this a great night? If you're thinking progressives more broadly in terms of Liberals, Green, NDP, because they have done well, but overall, you now have a Conservative majority government. That they can't be very happy about that. Some progressives, I would say. All
right, thanks, Eric. It's now time to turn over our Decision Canada coverage to your local anchors for the next 10 minutes in most markets. Stand by.
This is Decision Canada 2011 on the Global Television Network.
BC results are coming in very slowly, but we are starting to see some numbers as Conservatives and New Democrats celebrate across the rest of the country. Good evening and welcome back to our local coverage of the 2011 federal election. Celebrations breaking out in riding offices across the province as more and more BC candidates wait to see that magic word elected beside their names. We'll go straight to the latest results now. So here's Jill Kropp in our results center. Jill.
Well, Chris, it's been really interesting so far. We have seen some swaps in all our ridings very quickly. Let's run through all of them. Vancouver Centre, no results yet. This, of course, Hetty Fries. This is expected to be a safe riding for Hetty, but boy, have we seen a Liberal collapse tonight. She could lose that riding. Vancouver East also should be safe for NDP incumbent Libby Davies, although Irene Yap, who was challenging earlier. Vancouver Kingsway, Tran Nguyen is challenging Don Davies, who is the incumbent there, so he could be in a little bit of trouble. Vancouver Quadra. This has gone back and forth. Look how close that is between incumbent Joyce Murray, the Liberal, and Conservative Deborah Meredith. Very tight race there. Vancouver South. Wei Young in the lead at this point. Ujjal Dosanjh has to be concerned about how this night is going to turn out for him. Keep in mind, though, early numbers. North Vancouver, Andrew Weston in a battle, or Saxton rather, in a battle with Talib Noor Mohammed, the Liberal candidate surging there. West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky, John Weston, the incumbent, is being challenged by Terry Platt of the NDP. Burnaby Douglas, Kennedy Stewart, the NDP, he is not the incumbent, but this is an NDP riding. He's expected to win that, looking like he might do that. Burnaby New West, Peter Julian in a very strong lead against Paul Forsyth, who's a long-time politician. He was an MP for 12 years, challenging there. New Westminster, Coquitlam, Finn Donnelly in the lead for the NDP. Diana Dilworth of the Conservatives challenging. She's currently a Port Moody city councillor. She could be headed to Ottawa, depending on how the polls play out through the rest of the night. Delta Richmond East, as expected, the Conservative Carrie Lynn Findlay running away with that one. One of the few where we've seen somebody running away. This as well, Richmond Alice Wong of the Conservatives expected to take this. Looks like she will. In Port Moody, Westwood, Coquitlam, James Moore, the incumbent MP. He is going to win tonight. I'm going to go on a bit of a limb there, but I think he's probably safely got that wrapped up. That's it for the Metro Vancouver area. Joining us now, Rick Weber from Global Okanagan.
All right, thanks, Jill. We're taking a look at the interior ridings for British Columbia, as well as some Fraser Valley ridings and the North. And we're starting in Abbotsford. We've just in the last couple of minutes had a list of ridings where the candidates have been confirmed elected, and Abbotsford is one of them, the Conservative candidate. Mark Straw was hoping to take over for his dad as the Conservative MP, and that has happened. He's been declared elected just in the last couple of minutes. And then in British Columbia Southern Interior, we're watching this riding, the incumbent, one of the only incumbents in the Interior who's NDP, Alex Adamanenko, and he is in the lead right now. Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou. Another riding, you just never know how it's going to go, but the incumbent, Kathy McLeod, is doing well tonight to keep that seat. And our next riding is Kelowna Lake Country. Ron Cannon, the MP for the Conservative MP, has been declared elected in that riding, so no surprise there by any means. And in Kootenay, Columbia, David Wilkes, the Conservative candidate, has also been declared elected just in the last couple of minutes. Moving on to Okanagan-Coquihalla, where they were looking to replace Stockwell Day, and there was quite a competition to become the Conservative nominee there, and it looks like the Conservatives are going to keep that riding. In Okanagan, Shuswap, Colin Mays declared elected, longtime Conservative MP in that riding. So again, a lot of Conservatives being elected in the Interior. Dick Harris having no problem. He's been elected many times in Caribou, Prince George, and looks like he's on his way there tonight. And in Prince George, Peace River, Lois Boone is a former provincial politician, and we wondered if she would give the Conservatives a run for money, but the Conservatives are leading there. And in Skeena-Bulkley Valley, the NDP incumbent, Nathan Cullen, is looking like he'll keep his riding quite handily. So that's what's going on in the Interior. And right now we're going to check with Randine for the Fraser Valley and for Vancouver Island.
Thank you very much for that, Rick. And we are, even though the Conservatives have been declared the majority government, there's still many interesting races taking place. Right now, there's no polls reporting, but the races between Sip Dhaliwal of the Liberals and Jimmy Sims of the NDP there. In South Surrey, White Rock, Russ Hebert, he's a lock. He's expected to keep his seat, no problem. He should be declared fairly quickly. In Surrey North, Donna Cadman is tight with Jasper Sandhu. She's been called the invisible candidate, and she's going to be fighting for her life tonight. In Fleetwood, Port Calais, again, Nina Grewal should be expected to keep her seat, and she is leading there. In Langley, Mark Warwa has already been declared the victor, 64% of the votes, with 17% of the polls reporting so far. In Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge, Randy Camp also expected to win that seat, a fairly safe seat for the Conservatives. And in Victoria, Denise Savoy, 50% already with 8 polls reporting that is a fairly easy seat for the NDP to win in that Victoria riding. In Esquimalt, Wanda Fuca, however, no polls reporting yet, but the horse race is between Troy D'Souza and Randall Garrison of the NDP. In the Saanich Gulf Islands, Elizabeth May leading so far, none of the polls reporting, but this is a race between her and the incumbent Conservative Gary Lunn. In Nanaimo, Alberni, this should be a fairly tight race as well. We're not expecting the NDP to beat the incumbent so far, but that looks like what's happening. In Nanaimo, Cowichan, Jean Crowder should be able to keep her seat for the NDP tonight. And finally, in Vancouver Island North, this is also a horse race between the NDP and the Conservative Party. John Duncan, the incumbent, leading slightly or trailing slightly behind Ronna Ray Leonard so far. So, Chris.